Today, we are going to run the numbers on a rental property using the exact 7-step formula that the pros use. Seriously, this is the math that separates a great investment from a really, really costly mistake. So let's just dive right in. You know, the single biggest mistake new investors make? It's miscalculating cash flow. It's so easy to see a high rent price and think you've hit a home run, but all these hidden costs can turn what looks like a great property into a financial nightmare. So I want you to think about that property you've been looking at, the one that looks absolutely perfect on paper. Is it possible it's secretly a money pit? Getting this formula wrong is, without a doubt, the most common and most expensive error you can make in real estate. And we're not talking about small numbers here. A lot of investors are losing $500 or even more every single month, and they don't even realize it's happening. The stakes are really high, but the solution is just some simple math. Let's get it right. Okay, so to get to a cash flow number you can actually trust, we first need to figure out your real income, not the fantasy number. So let's start with steps 1 and 2 to turn that best case scenario into a number you can actually take to the bank. All right, step 1 is what we call gross scheduled income, or GSI. Think of this as your perfect world number. It's the total rent you'd collect if the property was occupied every single day of the year and everyone paid on time. It's a simple but really important place to start. So for the property we're looking at today, let's say the rent is $1,500 a month. You just multiply that by 12 months, and that gives us a gross scheduled income of $18,000. Easy enough, right? But, and this is a big but, this number is a fantasy. And if you invest based on fantasy, you are going to lose money fast. And that brings us to step 2, where we get real. This is called effective gross income, or EGI. Let's be honest, no property is occupied 100% of the time. You're going to have gaps between tenants, that's just reality. EGI is the number that accounts for that. Professionals, they typically budget for about a 5 to 8% vacancy rate. So for our example, we'll play it safe and use 6%. We take our $18,000 GSI and we subtract 6%, which is $1,080. That leaves us with an effective gross income of $16,920. Now this is the first number that starts to feel real. Okay, on to step 3, operating expenses. Now I want you to lean in for this one because this is where most new investors completely blow it. They just forget about all the other costs that come with owning a property besides the mortgage. So what are we talking about here? Well, it's basically everything except your loan payment. So you've got property taxes, insurance, management fees, but the one that's the silent killer is setting aside money for repairs and capital expenditures. We call it CapEx. CapEx is for the big stuff, like a new roof in 10 years or an AC unit that goes out. You absolutely have to save for these things every single month. Do not skip this. So for our example property, once we add up all those nitty-gritty costs from the taxes and the insurance all the way to saving for that future roof, our total annual operating expenses come to $6,000. And this is our second major number. Step 4 brings us to what is arguably the single most important number for valuing a rental property. This number tells you if the asset itself is a winner, totally separate from your personal financing situation. And that metric is net operating income, or NOI. So why is it so important? Well, because it shows you the pure, unadulterated profitability of the property itself. It's the number that a bank or a professional investor is going to look at to judge the real value of the deal, no matter what kind of loan you get. And the calculation is really simple. You just take our realistic income, that EGI of $16,920, and you subtract all our operating expenses of $6,000. That gives us a net operating income of $10,920. This number, right here, is the property's core annual profit. Okay, so we know the property itself makes money. Awesome. But how much of that money actually ends up in your pocket? That's what it's all about, right? Steps 5 and 6 are where we calculate your final paycheck after the bank gets their cut. Step 5 is your debt service. Now, that's just a fancy term for your annual mortgage payment. But, and this is key, it's only the principal and interest. Remember, we already counted taxes and insurance in our operating expenses. So let's say your P&I payment is $600 a month. Multiply that by 12, and your annual debt service is $7,200. And now, the moment we have all been waiting for. Step 6, cash flow before taxes. This is it. This is the payoff. This is the actual tangible money that hits your bank account every single year from this investment. This is why we do this. So to find it, we take the property's profit, our NOI of $10,920, and from that, we subtract what you owe the bank, which is your debt service of $7,200. That leaves us with an annual cash flow of $3,720. So what does that mean for you on a monthly basis? Well, we just divide that annual number by 12. And there it is, $310 per month. That is your profit. That is the actual cash this property puts in your pocket. Not bad. And I really want this to sink in because it is so critical. Remember, NOI judges the property's performance. Cash flow measures your personal profit. You could have a fantastic property with a high NOI, but if your loan is terrible, you could still have negative cash flow. Understanding that difference is everything. Okay, a positive cash flow of $310 a month is great news for sure, but is it a good return on our money? Step 7 is the final exam. It's the metric that grades your deal and tells you exactly how hard your cash is working for you. We do this by calculating the cash-on-cash return. And this metric is just beautiful because it is so direct. It compares the annual cash you get back to the total cash you actually put in. Your down payment, your closing costs, any repairs you did up front. It is the ultimate report card for your investment. So let's say our total cash invested to get this deal done was $40,000. We just take our annual cash flow, that $3,720, and we divide it by the $40,000 we put in. That gives us a cash-on-cash return of 9.3%. So the final question is, how does that 9.3% stack up? Well, most investors are aiming for a return of 8% or higher to consider it a solid deal. And our property at 9.3% clears that benchmark with room to spare. This is the final confirmation. It's not just cash flow positive, it provides an excellent return. So there you have it, the complete 7-step formula. The only question left is, which property are you going to analyze first?